bask in the glory of what is it like to be Sophie for just a few minutes.
Anyway, that solves a mystery that's been going on for a while.
Well, you won't have the brains, but you'll have the name. So at least Sophie's brain, that is.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So let me
Really, it's
see.
nice to see you on Zoom. I think it's the first time.
You want to take out one. Yeah.
Likewise.
You delete the app.
Hopefully you guys are not at 112-degree weather like we are.
Oof.
No, we had 104 last week, but it was very time bound. It was like maybe 4 days. But I saw the alerts for the Coachella Valley and I was like, oh my goodness. How are you guys doing?
Thank God we have swimming pools.
Good. I
The door swimming pools and white.
took my son to the pool and then I guess he got water in his ear and now running a fever. And so we tried
Oh,
to keep him fresh, but that didn't help. So
they love to keep things interesting.
yeah.
Golden retrievers that would get water in their ears all the time, and oh my God, the ears would stink. You always had to put that stuff in there to dry them out. You can keep them out of the pool.
I have one that used to do it, getting the pool up, and now
And the earaches are so bad.
he doesn't remember what it, experienced. I don't want to remember.
Hello.
Angelica, we're just laughing. So for the past couple of meetings, there have been multiple me's in the meetings.
Oh,
And
there
there
are multiple yous.
but you are also named Sophie Blondeau, and Ori came in being called Sophie Blondeau. So I don't. So now that solved a lot of mysteries,
Strange.
right? It's so
I'm
weird.
wondering if it's the link. It's just under your name
Maybe that's actually probably what it is. Yeah.
because I think it might have just been the link that was sent to you was attached to everyone else. Yeah.
Hi, Leah. I love the French support.
Hello. I know I have to rep while
You
it's going on. They
represent.
just missed a penalty, so we'll see what
I
happens
know.
by the end of this call.
We'll see how
Mbappe
it goes.
missed.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, what is the score, Leia?
0-0.
Yeah,
Okay.
0-0.
All right. They should be demolishing Morocco, but Morocco's a good team.
Morocco's been showing up. A lot of the underdogs have been showing up.
Belgium? Who knew? Switzerland?
Cape Verde.
Not so peaceful after all,
Yeah, Cape
Switzerland, are
Verde was
you?
great. But I feel sad for all the Latin teams. Like Colombia went out, Brazil went out, Mexico went out.
I don't feel bad for, I don't think
Ugh.
anybody feels bad for Brazil.
No, no one feels bad for Brazil.
The World Cup ended when Mexico was
Go
eliminated.
got up. Oh, that was a tough watch. I feel like up until the last minute of that game, it was like they can do it, like they can get a goal in.
So
Oh,
Kimberly, we work on the Bloomberg side, we work with Guadalajara a lot. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's great. It's super cool. But basically for the past 3 weeks, you couldn't get anything done. Nothing.
yeah.
Oh no, I know. I would watch all the videos on like socials and friends that were out there. I'm like, even if you didn't make it to the stadium, like just being out there
Oh
was
yeah. People would just go out in the city and just take the whole day and just watch parties and like
Concerts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked fun.
I know. So no, so yeah, pretty much for me it ended and I didn't cry because that I only like soccer during the World Cup. And so, but that was an intense game and like all the goals that they tried and they were
Yeah,
blocked and they were just, you know, it was good.
it was
It was
tough.
good. It was a good way of, being eliminated. Like at least it wasn't like a lame game. That's good.
It's true.
It
Not
might
like
have
the
been the
US.
best game of the whole tournament. It was so, I mean, every second was amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah, intense game.
I know when you mentioned Bloomberg, I actually got to work his presidential campaign back in 2020 out of the Riverside County.
No kidding. I didn't
Mhm.
know that. Okay, you didn't mention that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they-
I mean we'll talk about it, but we have a very, very deep relationship with the Bloomberg universe. We were basically incubated within Bloomberg for like
Okay.
several years. Um, but yeah, we've been working with Bloomberg Philanthropies for 9 years now.
But yeah, I remember having to learn about him and like his, things that he's worked on. And I want to say that I think it was the Riverside County that in California that got like the most votes for him or something. And so,
Probably. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like democratic ideas, but fiscally responsible,
Mhm.
whatever, that means. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. That's exactly his demographics. But his presidential campaigns left a lot to be desired.
of course, but it was fun. It was right
Yeah,
before
was it?
COVID. I want to say that we were campaigning for the primary, and what I remember was like February 2020, if I'm not mistaken, and then the shutdown, and it just got, yeah. And then I think
Yeah.
the primary was in like March that year, because like it in California sometimes it's March, and then some others it's June.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a March one, because
Okay.
then yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And
No,
just
I've never worked on a presidential campaign or like an elected campaign. It sounds like I have a lot of friends who have, obviously, but it sounds like an
Yeah.
absolute life experience, like something that you should do just to see what it's like.
You
Yeah.
should. I worked on Obama's campaign in Mississippi. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. I almost didn't, because they were preparing to hire people for the administration, and I almost changed my mind about going to Emory, and I was gonna work like pivotal moment, but I went to Emory instead. But I loved working on Obama's campaign. It was great.
I can imagine at that time, Obama and everything, like hopes of change, and
Yeah, it
that
was
must have been
phenomenal.
incredibly inspiring.
That was
Mhm.
the best campaign. My kids had like miniature t-shirts, like the whole family was into it.
Yeah, my folks was like, "You gonna do what? No, you're going to grad school." Like, I'm glad I did. It worked out. It worked.
Dr. Jeter.
I know. I don't think I would have gone if I hadn't gone to grad school then. I don't think I would have.
Ever.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah. And then you worked with Bottoms, who's gonna I think she's gonna run for president at some point. She's going for governor now, and after that.
Yeah, I probably have about 4 or 5 friends that are currently working on her campaign.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
it's an interesting one.
Very.
Good, bad, and everything in between. Just life is
It's an
complicated.
adventure. It's
Yes, life is
exactly.
complicated. We're glad we're not
So excuse me,
politicians.
we're just gonna be about 15 minutes late. Anissa's on her way. There was a little miscommunication, so we
Okay, no
apologize
problem.
for the inconvenience.
No
We can do
problem.
our sewing team meeting now if you guys want.
So-
There's no members of the public are on here.
Oh, okay.
So actually, yes, Anise just called and she said that she's gonna get there, that it'll take her like 20 minutes. So I'm not sure if we're okay with waiting for 20 minutes or we can postpone for future date.
Whatever is easier for you, we're ready to go. So whatever works, I don't know what other
Well,
matters.
Sophie, unfortunately, because we don't have a quorum in person, we can't have the meeting unless Anise was in person.
Oh, gotcha.
It's up to, obviously, though, them if they want to postpone it. And, it wouldn't,
And I'm the chair of the committee.
I mean, we'd have to
So I'm
cancel it.
gonna say that we
And
just
then-
wait a little bit.
And then next week, Kimberly's away at a conference, so, I guess. as
I'm
long as
letting
we-
the power go to my head, Kim, because you made me chair.
No, yeah, we'll take your direction.
You don't have a forum just to have a meeting,
I'm texting Jeff is responding now.
because there's no action items except for the minutes.
Yeah, so yeah, and you don't have any action items, you
No.
just have
Just
a
updating.
informational.
Yeah.
Hold on, she told me to call him back, just a minute.
Alrighty.
Let me mute.
So yeah, going back to the campaigns, my sister got to work on the Biden-Harris campaign, and it was all remotely. And so she was working out of the Imperial County here in California, but in for like the Arizona, for Arizona. And so she was like in the Spanish outreach and like Spanish field organizer for Arizona for them. And so she would tell me that like Biden and Harris would jump on their calls, and like they would also have some other like celebrities, right, go on there as support and to try to, encourage the team, make it work. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I mainly do more like local campaigns, and so that was my first opportunity for a presidential, right? Not necessarily we all know what happened, but I did like it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
my friend, two of my friends, three three of my friends worked on Kamala's campaign, and then one of my other closest friends worked on Biden's and Harris's campaign. So if you all watch Kamala's speech, one of my friends walked out and gave the speech during, I don't know if it was her very last speech before the election. She spoke in partnership and support of her for small businesses. So she helped to create the Atlanta Beltline Small Business Initiative. So she currently works with the mayor. So a lot of the Atlanta small businesses that are in the airport right now that were established over the past year, she helped to do all of that. So she did that work as a part of Kamala Harris's campaign. So all of the tours, all of that. I was so proud. I was tearing up. I was like, this is amazing.
It really is, right? Like knowing that you're helping a candidate or future, president, vice president. Now it's pretty cool. When I was visited DC, went to the White House, and I'm like, I want to work at the White House, not under this administration, but future.
Yeah, my last visit to the White House was December of last year for World AIDS Day. I was invited by Malik. Malik invited me to go to the White House with him as a part of World AIDS Day. So it was Biden's one of his last public speeches, and the White House was so calm. Everybody said it shifted next year.
Yep. Sounds like a battleground nowadays. Don't know, haven't been, but I'm
I
sure
don't
I'm
want to
sure
go back
calm
to.
is not one of the things that resonates or that kind of people feel.
Yeah.
Andrea, did Jeff answer? Or I was wondering what Jeff said. So I guess, um, Letty, so we're gonna wait.
Yes, we have to have a quorum in person to proceed.
Okay, yeah,
So
that's fine.
she's on her way. She says her ETA is 2 o'clock, exactly.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna turn my camera off and get
Okay.
some work in.
And we appreciate everyone's patience that's here in person.
Nope. We'll,
Yeah, put them in
we'll
the chat.
I
share.
wanted to go to see the Toy Story. Maybe it's a movie.
The movie.
And so I told her when I was driving in, so when I
Ori, did you want to let everyone know that we're back?
Will
I'll
do.
send everybody a text.
Uh-oh, I hear an echo.
No worries. Yeah, we'll send everybody a text.
Oh, somebody else is, oh, she's Patty.
No.
I'm gonna check if there's.
Hello.
Is 2 o'clock and I will call this meeting to order.
Are you the chair? I thought Anise was the chair.
I thought I was.
I thought that was
Tell me.
changed.
It says call to order, Letty DeLara, chairperson. You were the one that created the
I'm
agenda.
sorry, my apologies. No, I thought all of that.
That's why I made the joke that she put me in charge and I was letting the power go to my head.
That's why I was like, what?
No, just a second. Hold on, hold on.
Call to order.
I guess I misunderstood. Thank you. But we still need a quorum.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we're calling the meeting to order at 2:01, and we have present board members, Anise Smith and President Barraza. So we have a quorum.
Yes, ma'am.
So then we will move on to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Do I
Aye.
have a roll call because of one person being on Zoom?
Sure, why not just for legality?
Anise.
Here.
Kimberly. I'm sorry, Board Member Smith.
Yes.
And President Barraza.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes, so it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Next item is meeting minutes of May 22nd. You have the minutes that were provided to you for review. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
You said it was May 22nd, 2025.
It says
A
25.
year ago.
I know, it seems so long ago, and I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, I had to make sure, but I reviewed them. So, yes.
not attend that meeting.
You could still make a motion.
Okay.
You could trust us that we have reviewed them and that they're okay.
Okay,
So
So I'll make
unless
that-
you have a reason to believe that we were not, that they are, you can't.
I have no reason for that.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion.
Okay, so we have a first, do we have a second?
Yes.
President Barraza? Okay, so, we have a first and a second, all those in, Board Member Smith,
I'm gonna abstain.
okay? And, President Barraza,
Yes.
and I vote yes. We have 2 yes and 1 abstention. Next, we have public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak on items not listed on the agenda?
If you'd like to speak on anything not listed on the agenda, please raise your hand. None, no public comment.
Any member of the public in person like to make a, no? So, we have none, so we'll move on to the next item, which is new business. We have the 2027 to 2031 strategic plan implementation, and I'm gonna turn it over to Sophie to give us an update.
Thank you so much.
You should
It's
have asked Donna, I'll let you take the lead.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is a continuation of the meetings that we've had since the board voted to approve. So and to continue with the implementation plan, scope of work number 2. In my first interim CEO report at the board meeting, I gave a couple of updates on some of the 2 meetings that we had, or 3 meetings we had. And so we asked someone, since we figured the strategic planning committee is going to be the direct link between what's going on, so you have an idea what's going on for the rest of the board to report out. So if they can give an update on where we're at so far and where we're going. Thank you. Take it away, Sophie.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, everybody. It's really lovely to see you again. It's been about, I think, a month since we last saw you, so it's really nice to be reconvened. So we'll go at a quick pace, and also leave time for questions or discussion. So we have been hard at work since June 1st, and what we're going to do today is give you, we're going to review what we designed as our True North, the project success, as we do for every engagement, review the project roadmap and where we are on that, and then all of the work that we've been doing since we last saw you and where we are going, as Donna said. So as always, it's really important to agree on the True North for each of the project phases. And so if we could go to the next slide. Wonderful. So here is what we're looking to do together. This should look familiar, this format. We are now building a health system amplifier now that the strategy has been approved. The 3 guiding principles remain the same. It needs to be community-centric, it needs to be financially viable, and create tangible, measurable impact for the community. And in this scope of work, our efforts are focused on creating a high-performing, data-driven, resilient organization that is capable of executing successfully the new 5-year strategy with integrity, accountability, and long-term impact. So as always, the goals are very robust, but it's really important that everybody is in agreement with where we are heading. Otherwise, that is, it causes a lot of friction along the way. So I think that what we all agree is that we have a wonderful strategy, and we're excited to get the organization ready and to evolve, to be able to carry it out and create the change that we all want to see in the community. Next slide. So how we are going to achieve that goal is, as you know, this should also look familiar. The implementation roadmap has 4 phases, as everything we do has to be done in phases so that we build on the success of the previous phase. And where we are currently engaged is the foundational phase, where we are building the core structures and the systems to execute the strategy. And in the second half of the year, 7 to 12 months, we're going to do the activation, which will be much more focused on creating the data and the tech infrastructure necessary to support the strategy. But I do want to say that this is a little artificial, right? Because as we have conversations about the structure and the organizational structure of the organization, we're also obviously starting to talk about the infrastructure. So they look separate, but it's just to give us a step and a phased approach, but we do talk about all of the components. Okay. So
question on this. Do you want me to hold off my question until the end? You want me to ask it now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this. And as I was reviewing the documentation, I was just thinking about a recent board meeting that we had a couple of months ago, actually, when we were talking about office space, and we had a conversation about what we were looking at possible office space at the time. And I know that I was a little bit concerned because it seemed like we were rushing, because not because it wasn't a good property, but I felt like we were being rushed to do this rather than being proactive and figuring out what do we want. And we talked, and there was different comments from different board members. I remember President Barraza came up with the idea of engaging some of the cities, and my idea was looking at some of the areas of really strategizing, similar to what we were thinking of in the acceleration stage, where we talk about advancing clinical infrastructure and whether we should tie that into the first building that we purchased, because I think we all recognize that there is a need to have a home for all of the staff to be working as we're building this team. So I was just thinking, as I was going through this this implementation plan, whether and I'm glad that you said that, Sophie, that this is something that is still that could be changed. I'm just wondering if we should put in here in the first 6 months to have that conversation so that we're not being reactive, that we could be more proactive, to start putting together some input from staff as to what are we looking for, what do we need, and from board members, and to come up with a plan so that we can actually put that, it might take a year to actually have something completed, but I think we need to start now so that we don't get caught as a surprise. So any questions from board members on that, thoughts?
I do. Chair Delora. Yeah, I would want to add to that, that I think, you know, as far as the issue, especially with hiring and whatnot, because all of this is kind of working in parallel as to how we move forward, and then also the new grant making processes. I think the issue of office space is not a new one since I've been on the board. You know, it sounds like you all have been talking about this for some time, that you were going to need more office space. And so you mentioned a year. I don't know if you just meant for the building or what, but you know, I would hope that the process for that would not take a year for us to, you know, at least identify, because I'm not sure how we move through these steps without having the space to accommodate the staff that we're talking about hiring. That would be my question, how to address that.
Okay. Board member Barraza, President Barraza?
No, I agree with your, both of your.
Any public comment or from the team? Any thoughts?
My thought just on the space is a couple things. One, you know, as I've heard all the discussions, I don't know that there's going to be one single location that's going to solve all the issues. And the only potential way that I would see that is if we built our own, but then that runs on to the time issue, which could be several years on there. So, you know, I did like the property we're looking at. I did, you know, from my perspective, I felt like it accomplished more of all of the wants than any of the other properties that we saw. So if something like that does come up, you know, just on the feedback we had from the broker, that may be something where working quicker might be a necessity to take advantage of those properties. But just, yeah, I just wanted to note that I just don't see one property truly solving all of those. We're going to try to figure out what, you know, checks the most boxes.
Thank you for that input. And Donna?
I just want to add that I personally, I think it's a little bit premature, because now we're going in phases, but we're going to be going in phases of either hiring. Sophie, if you wanted to add on what we're looking at now, and she'll go through that, is we are looking at the existing staff and plotting it out. We're going to be reporting to in what pillars, and then what we may need to either have placed current staff and enough to keep their position, or we're going to upscale where they're going to maybe go for some professional development and can move into one of those positions, or some may be deemed as a consultant. Like we're looking at the policy analyst. We have DeVoe Burr as our lobbyist that brings forward a lot of health issues and health bills and things, or a new hire. So to get this huge building, not knowing where it is, and Kimberly and I talked about a way while ago too, where we're maybe looking at really, really central, where it's a hub, sort of like what you guys have here, RAP. You know, we have nonprofits around, we've got meeting rooms, parking spaces, place to put the mobile units. So it's more of a community hub where they could be known as the healthcare hub, and they come to us. So I never was taking that one out in Washington. It was just like, how could we get there? But anyway, that I just think it might be a little bit premature, but I think as we go along, implementing, like you said, side by side, with the staff, who's going to be what do we need to fill up those spaces? Then do we need larger space?
Perfect example of
Chair,
why I want to have this conversation, because you sitting right there, Eric and Donna, you've actually brought up two different ways of looking at it. We're not going to get 100%, you know, even from the 7 board members or 6 that's right now, to agree on something, but we have to reach a compromise. We're going to have to reach what can we agree on the things. And that's why I want to have this on the first 6 months, is to determine what is it that we agree on, and then agree on the plan, because it's going to go by really quick. And maybe we don't need to do it the first, I don't expect that it's going to be the first 6 months, because I'm kind of on your side thinking that building was good, but what is it that we really want to do? And but I'm willing to be open-minded to see, is there, what are the things that we could check off, and some of the things that I keep hearing from the team about having RV parking and having it be where we could have a campus, or what we could be, you know, on the bus line, and all these things we need to make sure that we are all on board as a board. So that when somebody else comes up with some property and that they say, oh, this is the perfect property for you, we look at our criteria and we say, okay, that meets it. It's not their criteria, it's our criteria. So that's what I wanna, I see a hand up from President Barraza. Go ahead, please.
Yes, apologize. So actually, I do have a few more comments on this, and so one of the things, and going back to our conversation with that Donna and I had, and I think I've shared this before, even in like our meetings. So what I don't want us want to find ourselves looking for a house without knowing how many bedrooms we would need, right? So like I think that this conversation needs to be had. Of course, there's 6 of us on the board. And so what is it that we really want? And to like Eric's point, where like, hey, we might not be able to find our perfect home or a place that will meet all of our requests. But I think that it's actually okay for us to take some time, and actually like what I would like for us to do, and I know that this could be maybe very time consuming, but I think that it would be good if we could take a look at other like special district offices. Let's connect with like cities and with their economic development departments to see what cities have within their master general plan, what cities have healthcare elements where maybe we can partner up with them and build some sort of like a healthcare hub where maybe it's close enough to a park or adjacent to a park or adjacent to other community services. When we talk about working this plan is a 5-year plan, but we oftentimes, or a lot of times we're saying that this is going to be the platform for the next 20, 30 years. And so I do see us maybe if it works, actually maybe building something from the ground, because that will be the home for the healthcare district. I mean, we've been a district for 75 plus years. So even if we were to go on for another 75 years, like it only makes sense that we actually create or build a space that's going to be the most adequate, or that's going to make the most sense for our entire community. And I mean, I can think, not too long ago, I visited like IHP and their Inland Empire offices, where like they have like different offices. It's some sort of like a campus, right? I'm also thinking, would it make sense to find something close by to the university campuses here in the Coachella Valley, where you're already going to have some of that traffic, where you're already going to have where it's going to be accessible to the public, right? If we're talking about in the future, creating some of that space into like public space clinics. Is it accessible to the public? Like, are they gonna come out? Are they gonna be okay? I know with the building that we had seen in the north, in Thousand Palms, north of the 10, like the building was good. It is, but there were some other things, right? Like I had mentioned, the location being super close to the freeway, air quality, noise, is it suitable for like medical offices? And so what I just don't want us to do is try to go look for something, be in a rush to try to move the team, where we might have some like opportunities. Maybe in the meantime, we rent out another space to be able to accommodate some of our team members in the meantime. And so those are just some of my thoughts and some of the things that I had to share with Donna
Thank you.
on this topic.
So Sophie, I wanted to just give you that opportunity to hear what different thoughts are. This is really a topic just to show you that we have to put it somewhere. We're not going to get into all the details, and maybe that's something that's gonna be driven through the other committee, the finance, legal, that's finance, legal, admin. Okay. So, but we just have to figure out what is the process, because that is something that I think needs to be done, at least the process, and how we're gonna tackle it and how we can do it in a productive way, and be able to start it and complete it, rather than every now and then we touch on it, and then again being reactive rather than proactive. So I just wanted to give you that feedback, and if you could kind of ponder that a little bit and let us know how we should address that.
Sure. Well, I will. I'm happy to ponder it further, but just a quick feedback on the spur of the moment is that it's very helpful to note that context in which the plan is being implemented, and clearly the real estate question is part of that context. It is outside of the scope of work that we're working on because we're really working on implementing the strategy, and here we're talking more about a real estate strategy. I would say that just from listening to the conversation, I would offer a couple of things. One, I totally agree that taking a proactive approach, which is what we're trying to do and everything that you're doing in terms of this new strategy, is the right approach, and not to be left in a place of being reactive and having to make rush decisions, I think is actually really, really smart. I do think that a phased approach is wise in the sense that we are just starting to think about what the size of the new organization is going to be. And as Donna pointed out, and we'll go into it in more detail shortly, some of it might be full-time employees, some of it might be consultants, so they might not need space all the time. But I do think that with all things that we approach, having a very clear strategic brief of what it is that you want to create in terms of the real estate is the right starting point. Gathering what we just started to do today, which is gathering everybody's ideas, looking at what the options are available, and figuring out a roadmap. So the process is very similar, but that's my first, on the spur of the moment, that's what I would say. It's absolutely the right thing to do, to think about it early on, looking around, but having an agreement on what everybody's looking to do. Is very different to find some additional space to creating a health center for the community. It's a very, very different project.
Thank you. And I agree with you that this is something that could be driven through our interim to really come up with the more detailed plan. But when I was going through this, and there was two places that I thought that it kind of made me think I need to bring this up just as a way to put it on the table. And that's where it talks about having facilities that could be built for urgent cares. And so is it then a co-located facility? Maybe. When we talk about investing in infrastructure, and so would it be beneficial to think about building something that could actually be the driving force to develop another facility there, like in the Desert Hot Spring area? When we're doing all of these community outreach, we heard from our most remote areas of the Coachella Valley that they wanted more, and that we recognized that there was it was more difficult in those areas to actually develop properties, and that being the Eastern Coachella Valley and Desert Hot Springs. Those are the most outspoken areas. So that's what makes me think, is just to figure out, and I think it is something that the CEO, the interim CEO right now, just kind of figuring out how we approach this, but that just the timeline is in the first 6 months.
That direction.
I think it's just, so yeah, for consideration, for consideration, I think that that's something that we need to include this on here as a point that we all, that we agree that it needs to be something that it's kind of alluded to in 2 sections. Again, where it talks about in the acceleration, where it talks about other advancing clinic infrastructure and real estate
Remember
related
too,
investments.
that a lot of these pillars are going to be drawn by the data that we are collecting to make our decisions on how we're going to go about advancing those things.
I just wanted to fit, there's so many pieces of the puzzle, and that's why I just wanted to bring it up right now so that we figure out where does this puzzle fit? And rather than having somebody telling us, we have 30 days to submit an offer, I just don't think that that's the way that we should do it.
And for Billy, with handling all the financial side of it, which we were going to not invest, but what we're going to look at 80%, 20%, whatever, then we have to bring that in as well.
Just coming up with some ideas that we could start the conversation and then get support from the majority of the board. But I think that starts off with use Donna to give us some ideas.
I think also what needs to be taken into consideration is a building that's already there that just needs to be retrofitted versus starting from scratch. we would have, that would be years in, permitting, building, bidding, construction delays, the cost. So that's another thing maybe we all should consider. What is the cost of retrofitting a building that's already existing, that's already up versus building from scratch?
The idea would be is that if you need to build from scratch to give us the ideal campus, like President Baranza was describing, and I think IHP is way overboard, but there is the alternative of to lease in the meantime until you get that facility.
LPAs, we still own.
So that's one of the things they can consider, because I don't think you wait until something is built, but you have to come up with a plan. And that's, I think it's just that the plan needs to be discussed at some point, where we then put this on the spotted things of what are we gonna be doing in the first year, in the next 3 years. This has to be in there, that we start thinking about, are we okay with leasing or buying as built right now, or leasing and then building, so those are things that we need to discuss. But give us ideas, Donna, and I think if we could just agree that this is something that the conversation or the topic has to be addressed in the first 6 months as to what is the plan. We're not gonna come up with, we're gonna buy a building in 6 months, maybe. I think there's different ideas that are going on, and we just need to at least start the process of how we're gonna do this. And so that we have some ideas with just 3 board members here, and there's 3 others right now that would have to sign on and agree that this is a topic that has to be included in our strategic plan as a timeline. Okay, so back to you, Sophie. I didn't want to take too much time, but just thought I would throw that in there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's dive in and to the project updates. I'm sure that's what you're all curious about. So here are the phases in the foundation phase. The first one was the communication launch, which happened from the time that the strategy was approved to June 15th. And I'm going to hand it over to Will to give us that update. And we're going to move through each of these one by one. We're going to tell you where we're at with each of them. So Will, over to you.
So as you see on the screen, we've done quite a bit in terms of our website. We actually developed a strategic plan webpage that has the plan, the report, all of the supporting documents in English and Spanish. And when we are posting on social media and through our news releases, we are directing people back to that page. We've done quite a bit with broadcast media, or starting to do. We actually have an interview with Desert Chat. We had an interview with Desert Chat. We did our interviews on KSQ and Kuna. We've done vignettes, and those are currently airing. And we've done a radio interview as well. Print and digital media. We sent out the news release announcing the approval and the launch of the plan, July 1. We had an article drafted that has been submitted to El Informador, and that has been printed this week. I've not heard back from the Desert Sun, been in conversation with them about posting and sharing that letter as a Valley Voice. And we have banners on the TV station website and their social media. We're really starting to push more our social media. We've had the announcements on our Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, but now Consuelo's working to create animated videos that really spotlight the different pillars, and also the frequently asked questions, pulling out some of the more pressing questions or commonly asked questions and featuring them as videos. And the Healthy Desert, Healthy You podcast. I had Dr. Jeter on earlier this year, and just recently had Sophie on with Craig Johnson, Jewish Family Service of the Desert, to give that nonprofit partner perspective, and his questions were answered by Sophie, and looking to do more of that.
Unless I see hands up from Director President Barraza, and I will just let you keep on going, Sophie.
I have one more, sorry. Alejandro just reminded me that we are going to be giving a presentation to the Coachella Valley Equity Collaborative about the strategic plan on August the 5th.
Yes, and Angelica and I are looking forward to joining that conversation. Thank you so much, Will. So that's the communication phase. That was one of the deliverables that we had to do in this phase. And then obviously what we've been focused on is the organizational alignment. How do we put the right people in the right places with the right skills to implement this plan? So what we have done is followed a very similar format that we did for the strategic plan. We've held a number of workshops where we align everybody's ideas and all the knowledge that we know, and then build from that base of knowledge. So on the 2nd of June, right at the beginning, we looked at the existing orgs and looked at what this current staffing structure looks like, what the operational workflows look like, and what worked and what could be improved and what was missing in terms of moving forward. And then we supplemented that with doing a survey with the staff to hear in their own voices, because it's very, very important that obviously as everything else we do is co-designed and grounded in lived experience. We asked them about their current roles and their current responsibilities and how decisions were made across the organization, how those decisions were communicated, and what kind of collaboration process exists today. Because as we know, collaboration is going to be a key, not only with external stakeholders, but internally across all departments and all pillars. Any questions about that? So I just want to say that we can show you the Miro board, we can show you results, but we're just giving you highlights. And if you want to go into more detail, you just let me know. We're ready to go and to show you that as well.
We're good. I can't.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic.
She's okay.
So in the second workshop, we basically presented and Billy, please jump in because this is your baby and you had a lot of work to do here. But we assessed the current staff capabilities against the strategic plan pillars using the survey results. And we identified where there may be some gaps in skills and capacity based on the pillars that we're trying to implement. And Billy, do you want to give a quick update on the high level findings? This was a very extensive presentation.
Yeah, so just one very important disclaimer is this has nothing to do with quality. It is in no way a performance assessment. This is taking the self-reported data from the staff who participated in the survey and then mapping their self-reported skills and competencies and capacities onto what we saw as being essential for this transition to the healthcare amplifier role. And so again, this is really about just the frequency that something showed up in someone's role. So some roles, and that's a big finding, is there were some roles that were very specialized, and rightly so. There are certain roles that don't necessarily need to have expertise and skills across many, many domains. There were some that very much did cover a wide swath of different sort of skills, expertise. They were more generalists, or they clearly had to interact with a lot of different departments. But the real takeaway beyond that is this notion that a lot of the things that are going to really make the sort of transition to healthcare amplifier really take hold is the things that are most under indexed. We're going to be baking into and embedding into the district the capacity to distill, to collect, analyze, and disseminate information that is community engaged, that is rooted in health equity and the social determinants of health, and that ultimately also we recognize that, understandably so, even though you have these two pillars that are here, which are sort of focused on facilitating access and or facilitating access and awareness, it makes sense that right now in sort of the prior strategy wouldn't necessarily be represented as deeply as we would want it moving forward. So we want to ensure that there's someone that has real expertise in those specific areas, just because they form half of your pillars. So that's the key thing, is we're going to be really embedding data, analytic research, and collective impact capacity that's rooted in health equity and the social determinants, and also with some specialization in those core really essential grant making oriented pillars.
Thank you so much, Billy. And then once we had obviously the current state, then we started focusing our attention on the future state, right? What would it look like to have all those roles filled out and aligned with the strategic pillars? So we did that, and we did Leah did a fabulous AI model to bring that to life. And then for each of those roles, we then went and looked at, okay, what is the purpose of this role? What pillar is it aligned to? What are their key responsibilities? Who are the key collaborators? And you're going to start seeing a theme here, right? We're starting to build that muscle memory of every role has to collaborate in order for this to be a success. It cannot be siloed. That was one of the key findings from the Discover report, right? That we have to move away from that tendency, especially with the new strategy that we created. So any questions on that? Okay.
No, we're good.
Okay. So the next one is we basically took all of the feedback and I think this is actually something, Donna, wave me if it's not something, but I think it's worth sharing. Is what we did is then we said, okay, but let's not just stop at this, org chart, which is part of our work, but like really bring to life this idea of health system amplifier and how that would actually look like throughout the organization with a very specific example. And I think this really resonated with the staff. So maybe we could just do a quick peek, Leah, and to show, because I think that would be, so Billy, you want to take this really quickly?
Sure. So essentially we wanted again to bring it to life. And so one example that we had is or that we thought kind of was instructive of how this new model is going to look working forward is this, just as a test case, is imagine just as a starting point, there is a community dashboard that is, it is number one, it derives from deep community engagement and multiple forms of community derived data. So not just for public health indicators that are publicly available, but also genuine community engagement so that we can ultimately have a dashboard that has a humanized element to it and a really contextualized element to the district. So that imagine this future world where on that dashboard, which reflects the priorities of the district and the community and the staff, and reflects the state of the world in terms of public health and health equity, we look and we see that lead testing rates have declined while exposure rates have risen amongst infants in the district. And so in this new world, the district then mobilizes its sort of overall amazing capacity to first define the problem. And by that, we mean that they're looking into the dashboard, they're engaging experts, they're engaging community to further contextualize. This is starting with that problem identification and then going into a deeper analysis. And the staff are really, really driving that home. They're engaging partners on a ongoing basis so that they have a regular pulse of what's going on, but then they're also meaningfully engaging more directly around this issue to fully get a three-dimensional view of what the kind of the scope of the problem and what the issue is. And this is a very, very sort of, this is something that's built into the muscle memory of the district. It's not just sort of a new project that we start up. It's something that you'll be capable of doing on a regular basis, because you're going to have such good data and such a collaborative network of internal and external stakeholders. And then we pivot once we have that deeper analysis, taking in multiple perspectives and really a sense of where the district itself can meaningfully plug in and use its resources, both monetary and non-monetary, to address this issue. Then it pivots towards action planning. And so we're going to see, okay, we're dealing with something like lead testing and lead exposures. That's something where we're ultimately going to have to probably engage. Is it where we're engaging the utility companies? Is it we're engaging the water, like the water authorities? Are we engaging Is this an awareness and an access thing where we need to be going with mobile health clinics to be raised and or engaging with schools? Is it a communications issue where we need to be pushing out awareness activities on a broader scale? All of those things come together in this action planning phase where a really elegant process happens. And then you're ultimately launching this with that evidence in partnership with community and those stakeholders, and regularly monitoring and saying, okay, let's take a look, and we have that pulse. Let's continually take that data and ultimately in the long term measure the impact of the actual intervention. Did we raise those testing rates and lower those exposure rates as a result of our efforts? And what can we learn from as an organization from those efforts to inform our collective impact process and our just sort of ability as a collaborative and partner oriented organization, how to leverage this for future impact, no matter what the issue is. So that's just one example.
I hope that was helpful in clarifying or bringing to life how the pillars work together and how the organization serves as a backbone organization in order to deliver the collective impact that we're looking to deliver. Okay, so once we had,
I think President Barraza has her hand raised.
Sorry, from President Barraza.
Yes, so really quickly, and this is, I'm not sure if I'm, being a little too creative right now, but could we develop some sort of like the district map? And then on the map, we would have like the pins and like the projects that we're currently working on. And then within that map, right, you could see like our active projects or something that in sync with what you just presented. And then like, if we go on the website, we can hover over it or we can click on it, right? And then it'll take us to that specific project, and then we can look at all the information data, the metrics and how it's doing.
You are absolute. Go ahead. We're going to go in the same direction, so go for it.
Oh, no, just like without question, that's what you're talking about is both that in itself is sort of evidence of your impact, but it's community engagement. It's letting the community know we're doing this work. And it's also sort of an accountability mechanism so that you're thinking in terms of equity, because we know from a geographic lens that resources need to be equitably distributed across the district. And so a visualization is such a powerful demonstration of that. And this sort of effort allows you to take so much of the incredibly rich data you have and use it for communications and coalition building. That's what we really want to do.
Thank you, Billy. Ori?
Spot on. No, you're not being too creative. In fact, that's going to be an essential part of one of the phases that we've already scoped out later down the line that includes the dashboarding of all the information or the critical information that we want to convey. So everything that Billy said, plus, no, you're not being too creative. That's spot on.
All right, thank
you, Sophie.
Absolutely.
I've been moving this meeting along, so prompting you to
yeah, no, good. Oh, good. I just want to make sure everybody gets, gets to share all the fun that we've been having. So
we'll interrupt you as needed.
So the final phase that we just did on the 6th of July was we looked at the new organizational chart with all of the roles that were approved in the May 2026 board meeting. And we started saying, okay, so who is in place that can stay in this role? Who do we need to give, move and upskill and provide professional development? So who do we have that can grow into a new role? Or then we looked at maybe some of these roles, like for example, the real estate consultant could be consultant for the moment, right? It doesn't have to be a full-time role. And then finally, okay, we do need some of these roles we need to hire for. So we went through that process and then we ranked them as to what was a high priority hire. And then we talked about the target dates. And so the next thing that we're going to do, if we go to the next slide, is we are now going to, one more thing. We met with Bob Murray and Associates yesterday to talk about the CEO search and just to give them our perspective on the strategy and some of the key characteristics that are really important in order to bring this to life. So we did that. And then the next slide will tell you what we're doing next, but I guess not. So we are going to now, the staff is looking at this ranked chart of the roles that we need to hire for. And then we're going to start, the staff is going to start working with an HR firm and develop the job announcements for the priority positions, interview, hire, and onboard. And then simultaneously, we're going to continue building on the model that Billy just showed you and develop a RACI matrix for the new organizational chart to talk about who integrates with who reports to whom, who collaborates, and all those fun things. Now we're going to take it over. So that's the organizational work that we've been doing. Any questions? Do you feel like you got a good snapshot?
Board Member Smith,
No questions.
President Barraza? The only question that I have is, as you are developing this process and everything that you've gone so far in terms of the organizational, the staffing, are you also going to be looking at the evaluation, the performance of those people that are coming, the employees coming on? Is that part of what you're going to be looking at, working with an HR consultant to making sure that we have the good orientation, bringing them in, the training and all that as part of the strategic plan?
Part of onboarding.
Yeah, onboarding and
Yes.
evaluation the first 30 days, 90 days, year, all these things.
I do not believe that we had considered evaluation, but we're definitely, we have definitely thought about the onboarding process and being part of that for sure, because that's going to be huge.
Okay.
The other thing I should mention was, and I think we agreed that also we will be providing the staff with updates regularly so that there's a sense of they know what's going on and what the process looks like. So that's another thing. It's very similar to what we're doing with you today, just giving everybody a good understanding of what the process looks like and what the steps have been taken and making sure that their voices are incorporated and that we answer any questions.
Okay, very good. Sophie, hold on. Donna had a question.
Not just saying, and strictly on benefit, when they're allowed to have different benefits, that they like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and I think we do evaluate them before we turn them on to different benefits as well, like in some respects that you know they're not working out in 30 or 60 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
180 day
Probation. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Back to you, Sophie.
Okay, wonderful. So as I said, this is a little bit fictitious because, you know, we're doing the organizational alignment, but we're also working on grant making. But we had to do the work in the organizational structure before we got into the grant making. But that process has started and Billy is leading that work stream. So I'm going to hand it over to him to give you that snapshot.
Thank you, Sophie. Okay, so the key thing again, we really want to drive home is that you are coming from such a position of strength, and our goal is to make this as impactful but as least disruptive as possible. And we also recognize so many different regulations and rules that you have to abide by. So to the extent that we could build upon components that were really already demonstrating success, we wanted to do that as we formulated our recommendations. So the key thing is, first, we did our own deep dive again into how the process is, how you sort of currently do, what is the current scope of options that you do in grant making, and what are those implications, what that looks like, and how that plays out. And then we started discussing again potential just the ways that we could, in just visioning out possible alternatives, modifications, what that might look like, and orienting from a more reactive approach to a proactive approach to grant making. And then also we had a fantastic discussion with a potential option that would function as a grant making technology partner. And we got to learn from a technical capacity what the many options are that technology can help with in most phases of grant making, from actually sort of just facilitating letters of interest, applications, performance monitoring, leveraging AI to make that process simpler, we learned so many different things, especially just as the field is advancing. So it was incredibly helpful to do that. And then we ultimately had kind of a very recent discussion where we landed on our preliminary set of recommendations is basically this idea that you have something that is already in existence that already shows that your superpower is collective impact. You are naturally a collective impact initiative, and you've done it before. We just want to embed it in every aspect of your work. And so we ultimately found that your RFP process, and specifically the examples of the air quality example, is just a fantastic illustration of how, and the whole concept of doing data walks that are deeply community engaged and community contextualized, leveraging many different community inputs to and engaging expert stakeholders of various kinds, and then having a really highly competent and qualified staff take all that together and put it into the form of an amazing RFP, which then is put out into the world to bring in additional, hopefully very high quality ideas that can have a high impact. That is fundamentally what we want this organization to do and have as part of its just daily practice. So instead of it just being a data walk for a self-contained project, we want you to be able to do a data walk for infinite activities that are relevant to the district, and just have that capacity built in. And so ultimately that's the key thing is from our vantage point, we really recognize the potential of that, to build on that, to modify only the some of the RFPs had pretty broad strategic goals, and we really recommend thinking in terms of more RFPs, but with narrower focus, so that you can manage them and have more apples to apples comparisons, and also treat them as a portfolio that you can learn from and with, and may have a different sort of sub focus that could be incredibly helpful over time. And also just the leveraging the RFPs, as opposed to in a rolling capacity, you can deploy it as necessary based on your community dashboard. So really tactically saying, okay, we've identified this issue. We now recognize these specific opportunities. We're going to put out however many RFPs are appropriate to address that. That's like sort of a working idea that we've been workshopping, and we want everyone's perspective on, but we think it builds on your strengths. And then really our next phase is we're going to be focused specifically on just building this to be airtight. We want it to be transparent with the community. We want it to have deep impact, and we want it to be sustainable, so that throughout we anticipate everyone will be here for the next 50 years to see the impact. But we want to make sure that no matter what, that it endures and that it has that impact that we're envisioning. So stay tuned for more, but we also would love feedback if you have any.
I'll start with Director Smith. Do you have any questions, comments, feedback that he's seeking?
I do. I have feedback and a question. This was extremely helpful, so thank you for that, Billy. This definitely helped me better understand kind of what we're working toward from the standpoint of grant making. And I think, and the reason I want to bring this up, we're talking about grants, but because it came up at the last meeting, so probably going to come up again a few more times over the next 6 months. However, I think this is hopefully the appropriate time. In this process for the 0 to 6 months, I believe the recommendation was previously that we don't do any grants or sponsorships.
We will be taking sponsorships.
You will be doing
It's for the next
sponsorships.
year. It's for the next year.
Okay, fiscal year. Yeah.
No, for those events that are going to be held starting January 2027.
2027. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, because the reason I bring that up, and I understand we're in kind of a transition point right now, so it obviously would make sense that we need to get, all our ducks in a row before we start doing grants again, and that it's in line with the new pillars and whatnot. But the concern that's been brought up by several directors is that in the meantime, we have a lot of organizations that are not receiving support, that have historically applied and received grants from the healthcare district, that are maybe feeling, a little bit like kind of what's going on. And I don't know if there's going to be like a point of reviewing or evaluating how some of our historical grant making with organizations may kind of transfer into or under this new strategic plan. However, these orgs hopefully will apply for more grants in the future. But what does that look like from your standpoint as far as the next 0 to 6 months to address directors' concerns that, we're just stopping, right? Effectively, if we're not doing any grants for the next 6 months, and how we kind of, how we work that with our partners and in the community and organizations that are providing services that have historically, I'm not going to say they rely on the healthcare district, but we have certainly, they rely on the healthcare district, and we, significantly play a significant role in their operations, right? And so I just wanted to get kind of some input about that because I think we discussed it before and we were maybe feeling like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then when the reality of it hit, and our grantees were coming saying, oh my gosh, like what's going on, then it,
So
it's a different view.
yeah, I completely hear you. And number one is we are certainly not absolutists, and I completely understand what you're saying. Is literally a strategic decision was made, more data has come in, and now we're going to sort of revisit and discuss that further given that additional context, which is 1,000% valid. What I would say is I wouldn't presume to know how to sort of address the totality of those historical grantees in sort of or put them all in one bucket. I can say, as someone who has both been a funder and a grant seeker, I certainly empathize with, to an incredible degree, both predicaments. You're an organization that's making a strategic shift, and ultimately that is going to have implications in the long term for organizations that may not fit within that strategic shift fully. But simultaneously, you do have legacy and historically long-term grantees who do have, again, for whatever number of reasons they depend on your fundings for survival, and not wanting to communicate out essentially that, sorry, we're making a strategic pause, and if that means that you can't make payroll, that's so be it. We would never ever recommend that. It is something where the only recommendation I would make in this, and I would love to discuss this further, is that the process of facilitating that 6-month transition, I think, is more than doable, but it should be systematic, and it should be it should have sort of a very clear set of rubric in terms of criterion for consideration, and asking and also position the organization around supporting organizations towards, or your organization around supporting those organizations towards, no matter what, a long-term financial sustainability, which would include having a diverse array of funders in the future, which would include having many revenue streams. But for this transitional period, developing a rubric and a set of criteria for saying this is what we would consider to be an appropriate use of these resources during this transitional period, such that we are honoring their contributions and our relationship with them in a way that also doesn't undermine the long-term strategic shift. So I would say we're happy to enter in that discussion, but it is more than doable. It just requires a lot of intentionality and adherence to whatever framework you create.
I'm gonna ask President Barraza if she has any questions or comments at this time.
So, Director Smith, thank you. That was a great question and great point for us to be making, and Billy, like spot on with your response. For me, it is a difficult predicament, but I'm okay with some sort of a pause because that means that we're structuring something that's gonna work even better for the next 5 or more years. So I'm okay with that, and I'm also hopeful and positive that we are going to be able to find ways on how we can be supportive to our community partners within the next few months. We're talking about 5 more months before, I mean, if we still have an implementation goal of, let's say, January 1st, the first month of next year, we're just a few months in, and I understand the impact that it's going to have on these organizations, but we just ask for a little patience because we're working on this and we're going to make it even better. And just a quick note, I plan on living at least another 50 years, so I'm all for this. And to be in the valley and see it
Yeah.
firsthand.
The only thing that I would add and say,
Sorry, you're
President, sorry.
I like to make sure that we have order, so I will call on
Oh.
you.
Sorry, apologies.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. The only thing that I would add is at the end of the day, we can make the recommendations, but this is not a so-in decision, right? Ultimately, this is a decision that needs to come from the from leadership and from the board, right? I understand all the predicaments. I understand the pushes and pulls in both directions, and the challenges. Both options have challenges to them, right? But ultimately, it's not like we're making this decision. We're providing the information, and ultimately the decision needs to come from you, and we will align in the best way that we possibly can to the decision that is being made and change whatever we think needs to change in our approach or in our plan to align to the decision that you make. So I just want to make that crystal clear. This is not a so-in decision.
Thank you, Ori. I'm going to turn it back to Billy.
Thank you, and I adhered to policies and procedures that time. So, but in terms of just one quick add-on, after President Barraza's point, which is, I think, absolutely. I just think that the crucial element of this is clarity of communication and expectations, to the totality of everyone that is affected by this, regardless. I think that a lot of anxiety can be created when there isn't that clarity. And in this case, you're being very, very deliberate about making sure that that is limited to the greatest extent possible. And the second thing is just recognizing, again, that we also, as we're shifting towards this strategy, we just want to think about the downstream implications and recognize that ultimately no matter what, again, the shift is going to have those implications. So to the extent that this is a temporary reprieve, again, it's entirely the board's decision, but simultaneously, we want to just really prioritize that no matter what, this is the strategic shift is happening. And so that just should always be front and center, and clear in that discussion.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna add a couple of things and then move it on very quickly. As I heard everybody, and I don't want to repeat everything that everybody's saying, but I agree with both President Barraza and Director Smith. I just want to say that what I caught on here was that we do have a system right now. We have had a system for several years, and we've been getting better as we have been improving the grant process, doing RFPs, using our RVA. As a strategy. So it's not like if we're going to somehow not have still a North Star, that our North Star has been in place for up to now, and now it's going to change a little bit. It's going to have a bigger vision. It's going to be a little bit even more refined. So as we're doing this, and everybody keeps saying about shifting, to me, I see it more as a transition. And after we do that transition, where there's no going back, but that's this transition period of the next 6 months, I do think that there has to be more flexibility because we do have those our strategies that we've been solving for, and we can still use them with the lens that we now have, the 4 pillars that we have. We can use that lens And so as we are looking at when our organizations are coming to us and asking for a grant, and you're saying, well, we're not starting till next year. It's not gonna happen January 1st. It's probably we're gonna look at what is the process for next year, but it could be as late as March, as May, I don't know. There's a lot of work to be done here. So looking at some of these applications that are the letters of intent that are coming in, instead of just saying, no, don't even bother, listening to see whether they actually do fall into our, I know you're not, okay? I know you're not. No, no, that's
your
not
other
coming
hat on,
from,
right?
but just to determine whether they fit into our pillars, and to see if there's an urgency, putting them as kind of a triage. And then if there isn't, then they wait until the RFP. And this is what I brought up at the last meeting when we were talking about this, and I said, I knew this was gonna be hard. But when I find out that there's an event in the East Valley that is not gonna get funding because it falls within these 6 months, then I do have a problem with that. And I'm referring to the one that I brought up during
The sponsorship.
yeah. So I really liked the fact that you said, Ori, about looking at whether it fits into the strategies. And I think what it really comes down to is whether these requests are addressing our long-term goals. If that's the case, then it's where we are working to have that flexibility to be able to go through this transition period. Not changing, because I don't think just because we are doing this, or as we're doing this, that we're saying, oh, we're ignoring our strategic plan, or we're going to make it harder. We respect the work that you have done and the expertise that you bring. I know I do, but I have to share this so that you know that this is in my role as an elected official, that I have to think about where is their flexibility, not sacrificing what we have in place, but like you said, taking that into account. Okay, so I'll turn it back over to Sophie. Take us.
Just may I add?
Yes.
By looking at all these different pillars, and just wanted to add the fact that, looking at the HR1, so we're gonna have the survey that's going out. Actually, we've asked someone if they wouldn't mind looking at it as an objective third party to look at what we have in case we're missing any questions to really get some data. When we get that data, we're gonna look at it through a lens too of, okay, is there some money that we can take out of the $10 million budget that we can then, following Billy's amplifier thing that he did with the lead resource, is then we can take that and plug it in to say, okay, what pillars are gonna be working together, because it does tie into a pillar. Actually, pillar 3 was social determinants of health, and it can also do access to healthcare, and it can also do workforce retention or recruitment. And so how do we work that in and maybe make a collective impact process on that with other organizations, because we're going to share that with stakeholders, so we can be developing something where our nonprofits can, if they're showing that they do need some help, then we can somehow be able to lift them up and to be able to help with the things that we're finding from the HR1 survey. Second one is we had a really robust Coachella Valley Behavioral Health Collective, that group that we have. We had some new partners that came in. One partner came in from Cal Baptist. We had 3 police officers come in. There is a huge crisis out there with the homeless and also with these sober living homes that, I mean.
Where's there?
Palm Springs.
Okay.
Yeah, but it affects all the other cities because 40% of the people that are coming in for drop off homeless are outside of the area. And these police officers with CBAT, with a mental health professional, you probably aware of that with the county, they're just like trying to plug a hole, and it's just amazing. So we have funds. I forgot to ask you, but we have in the foundation. We still have our behavioral health initiative. So what I'm saying is, let us develop maybe some things, but we're gathering again the data, so we're just not being reactive to somebody that says,
Right.
okay, I want my program to be funded. You funded it all these years. Maybe that's for a specific reason we funded it. Maybe because we were doing food insecurity, or we were doing, I don't know, if you wanted to do a historical look at it, but that's that, right? So, and then, how we can tie in our mobile health. And we, one of the big, and then with the behavioral health collective thing, the behavioral health, BHSA, what's that? Behavioral Health
Services Act.
Services Act. That went into effect July 1st. Big changes. The county is going to be held accountable for really specific step up services. But so the ancillary ones are going away. Department of California Health, Public Health is taking care of the prevention intervention. But they're trying to come in where they want, the county needs in the desert medication management. And the mobile hospital, but their mobile teams can't do this. We're like, well, maybe our mobile units can help. So, you know, we're gonna get together with them. So there's lots of stuff brewing out there where we will be able to lift up our nonprofits and help them, but
Yes,
it's not just gonna
100%.
be a reactive grant where they just come in and say, I would like $200,000 to, you can do this and do that.
Well, just a question then, in response to what you just said, what would be like a timeline that maybe we could come back to the board with? This is what that looks like. As far as, you know, the survey is coming, there's all these changes, you know, you're working on things, that much is clear. But I think there's at least, maybe not the idea of that, but the conversation, you know, that, okay, well, so we're just not doing anything but focusing on strategic planning and implementation, whatever it be for the next 6 months. You know, we did have a member from the public come and make a public comment at the last, well, you were there, at the last
We
meeting.
never came to one community engagement. I think that's okay.
Well, be that as it may, they missed out, you know,
Yeah.
but still, we just want to make sure, right, that we're
I think that-
acknowledging,
Yeah.
you know, our partners in those relationships, and it is gonna be a shift, and it is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I think we're all, it's our first idea, right, is that we want to make sure that we're there, you know, for the communities that we serve in every way that we can be. And so obviously it will be hard to say, oh, well, we can't do that for 6 months. I get that part, but if you all have some alternatives so that we know what's happening once you get the survey and whatnot, so it's like, okay, we're not working with anybody. It just looks a little bit different and it's gonna be based on data. That would be
Exactly,
helpful.
exactly.
I'm just gonna make a closing comment before I turn it back over
Could
to,
I just want to.
Yes, you may.
To Director Smith.
yes, Jimmy.
Gracie and I can probably work on all those things, all those little pots out there, or those clouds that are brewing and what's happening and what the rainfall is gonna look like. That's
Like
gonna
the
impact.
triage, that's what I'm
So
saying.
we can put something together based on all the conversations we had today, because of different things that came out of the whole collective.
Yeah.
I mean, there can be some real mental health crises really brewing out there. It's gonna get worse.
I think that's a great idea, because, you're the front line. And you're hearing about these things. And I think what you're hearing from the three of us right now is that we understand that as a front line, that you want, I think that you have the support of at least three of us right now, that we want to be able to respond, and that we don't see it as moving away from our strategic plan, that it's really a transition. And again, you know, coming up with these ideas, hopefully sooner rather than later. Right now, these families that you're describing, the urgent need is what I'm worried about. You know, who is gonna suffer more because, you know, and like I said, we already have a system in place. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. You know, we have the strategies, we have these things that is, so long as they align with our pillars, they're not contradictory, they're actually aligning and looking at the long-term goal. I think that's where we need to kind of put that into perspective. So are we okay? Okay, I'm turning it over to Sophie. Sophie, and if you want to call on Ori, it's your decision.
Sure. Just a quick thing is that it is a change, and I think that it's really important to acknowledge it. In the internal conversations we've had about grant making, there's a couple of times with the staff where it's been, if we have more defined boundaries, a strategic plan is a boundary, more details to an RFP is a boundary, right? That people know where they're playing and how they're being evaluated. It makes everybody a winner. The districts looks good because it's sticking to a format that applies to everyone. It makes the grantees feel good because they know exactly how they have to meet the criteria, and it affects the community because we are using the data to say we are addressing the most critical needs. So I want to say, and yes, it's a transition process. It takes a while and it's painful, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a win situation for everyone if everybody sticks to the rules. And the worst thing we can do is to have rules that are shifting, because that's what it's going to cause all the stakeholders, and we've done a lot of work, right, internal, external stakeholders, a lot of anxiety, right? So if we stick with our plan and we all agree, and I agree that it entails further conversations about how we refine the process that we have, and a lot of it is much more about adding details, right? It's saying, we're not, maybe it's going to be like, we're not going to fund 90% of an organization's operating budget because we've done it for 20 years. Because we're looking at collective impact. Now we're going to say, we'll fund 50%, and then you need to look for other funding, because that's what we're doing, collective impact. So I'm just saying, I think there's transition, and it's going to be a good outcome if we stick to the plan and we go through this bumpy stuff. I also want to say very, very honestly that most of the team has to jump off because we all have to be somewhere. I'm actually getting on a plane, so if I could stay, I would. But I just wanted to be really, really honest and say we've really enjoyed the conversation. I hope we've given you an update on all of the work that's been going on behind the scenes. We're always here to answer questions, to give further updates. And obviously, Donna, you'll let us know, but I just wanted to be really honest and say we're all behind schedule.
I think we all got
Sorry.
a lot of information here. Before you go, I just want to give a chance to President Barraza and Director Smith, if any closing comments before they leave.
Thank you so much. Sorry to make you all late.
No, all good. It was great to see you.
Sophie, thank you.
Okay, see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so back to you, Donna.
That was it.
Anything else you want to cover on the strategic plan? We're good? Okay, committee member comments, Director Smith, do you have any comments?
No.
President Barraza, any comments?
No, I just want to thank the staff and of course, Soin as well for the work that you're doing within this transition period. And I'm very positive that we're gonna make it work. And I like the direction that we're going in and the vision that's guiding this work. So thank you all.
And I just want to say I'm glad that we had this meeting, because the more we talk about it, the more it gets embedded in my brain, the things that we're doing and why we're doing it and why it's important. So, and then for giving you some feedback on some of the things that we're thinking about. So it gives us a chance to have more conversation, coming up with ideas and being able to support these things at the board meeting. Okay. So anybody else? Okay, we're gonna adjourn at 3:16. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.